Bob's a more or less regular presenter at our meetings as well. Bob works in the science group at Evotec, and he used to work in the development chemistry and library production, then moved on to automation, and now working with Ian in the science group. So he'll be talking about custom calculators.
Okay, good afternoon. This is my agenda for the afternoon. Is just to first tell you about our current application where we're exposing some of the models that we've developed over the years, which is ESMA, and then I'll show you how we've created our own library of custom calculations that we can incorporate into ChemAxon tools and into KNIME, and I'll give you some examples of those, and then show you about incorporating into KNIME as well. So firstly, ESMA. So this is our current application. This is available on all the chemists' desktops, and so the chemists can draw their structures in here, and on the right-hand side there's a selection of calculations that have been developed over the years at Evotec. And they can also use, there's a spreadsheet view, so they can import an SD file into the application and run the same calculations on there. But it's quite a large application, and it's quite complicated to change and extend. So if we want to change the calculations that are in there or extend them, it's going to be quite difficult. So about a year ago we started looking if we could provide the chemists with the same functionality within their normal ChemAxon tools that they've got on their desktop. And we did a bit of research, and we found that there was a services interface that we could try and use, but when we tried to use it we found it was quite difficult to use. So we talked with Zolt's group from ChemAxon, and they made some changes to the interface, and we've been working to develop a library of custom calculations that we can use with this new interface. So I'll show you some examples here now. So we started designing our library of calculations, and we thought we'd like to make sure that they all conform to the same structure. So we designed a series of interfaces that we thought would cover the different sort of calculators we wanted to do. So there's a basic calculator facade, and then if we need to involve pH values in there, we've got an interface that takes account of that. Or if we need to incorporate biological results in there, we've also got an interface that will cope with that. So the idea was that the calling application could use this facade, and then there would be another set of actual algorithms underneath there that we could change if we needed to change the implementation without affecting the way the caller was working. So there's also a series of interfaces for the algorithm. So each calculator is, implements a calculator algorithm interface, and then there's a charge calculator or an activity calculator interface that they can also use if they want to use with a pH value or with a biological value. I should mention as well, on this one we've got in the interface we've got two methods in there. So we've got a basic calculate method which returns an object which can be further processed by the calling class, and then we've got a preferred method that we use called getResult that provides back a formatted method ready for display. So a couple of outline examples. So for the blood-brain barrier calculator, this is implementing the basic calculator facade, and then you've got a calculate method which creates an instance of the BBB algorithm calculator and just calls calculate on there, and then you've got a get result method as well, which just calls this calculate method, does some formatting here in the space that I've left there, and then returns the result. And so the algorithms, again, they're set up in similar to this one. They're implementing the calculator algorithm. For each one of them, we've put a static string in there, so you can call this directly with a reference to how the calculation was carried out, and a standard error message as well. And then there's a calculate method, which in this case is just going to return an array list of strings, and will be formatted in the get result method, or allow the caller to present those as they wish. So that was our Java library. So we've done quite a series of different calculators in there, and we've now got a Java library ready to incorporate into other applications. So if I just show you how we now deploy this using Marvin. So in Marvin, I don't if people have looked in the preferences, since Marvin 5.6, there's now a services tab in the dialog, and you've got a series of buttons down here, and you can import a services config file that you've already set up if you want to, or you can add new services one at a time. So I've set up one here. This is the BBB calculator. So if I move on, so if I click on the add button, and I get another dialog come up here, and then there's a choice of different services that I can add into Marvin. And if I choose local service, then I can use my jar file of calculators. And I just point at my jar file, and when I do that, then in this lower pane here, I'll get a list of all the different classes that we've got in our jar file. And if I click on one of them, on the bioavailability one, then it opens to show the two methods that I've implemented following the interface design. And then, so when I click on one of the methods, as I'm showing here, then this panel opens, and then I can set up the parameters for the calculations. I just need to tell Marvin how it's going to get past the parameter for the method. Once I've set that up and given it a name, click on accept, and then the new service turns up in the services dialog. And when I OK that and close it, then you can go back to Marvin. And people may have noticed in the later versions now there's a separate tools item here, and if you go to services, then these new items that I've added are available here. And just to mention as well, I was saying about a services config. So once you set up a services config file, you can save it from the preferences menu, and then that's our current plan at the moment, so that we deploy the, for our chemists, we deploy the jar file and the services config file to place on their PC, and then they can just point to the services config file and it'll already be set up for them to use. They won't have to go through setting up each one of these services for themselves. And there's just an example at the bottom here showing how the services config file looks. So it's just a path to the jar file and then the necessary parameters for the file. So when you click on one of the services, the molecule that you've drawn in Marvin Sketch gets transferred into this new window for each calculator, and then you get your result displayed in the bottom part of the calculator window. And as you change the molecule in Marvin Sketch, then you can update the molecule here, and you can either tick to calculate automatically, or when you've updated the molecule, the calculate button becomes active, and you can just recalculate. So I've just given an example of 3 different calculators we've got there, and these are just our first results, or our first attempts at displaying things in Marvin. So we're currently discussing with our chemists and computational chemists what sort of how they'd like their results displayed. So I think we've got a group of about 7 people. That seems to be a popular number. We're having discussions with them, but it's still difficult to get a consensus about what they'd actually like. So once we've set up the calculators in Marvin, then they become available in the other desktop applications that we've got. So if we now go looking in Instant JChem, and we click on add a new chemical terms column, then we get our normal dialog for the chemical terms. And when we search through the list of chemical terms that we have got available in there, we get a list of the Evotec ones that I've added in Marvin Sketch. So I can choose those, and then I just have to configure them to accept the correct parameters and return the correct types. And then Instant JChem will create a column in there using my calculators. And of course, as it's a chemical terms dialog, you can use the other ChemAxon calculators as well. You can combine them using the chemical terms language. And of course, the calculators are also available in CxCalc, and using enumerate from the command line, you can also access the calculators, and you can combine them with the ChemAxon ones. So we can also use these in our own KNIME nodes. So now we've got the library, we can import the class we want to use, and then there's just some standard code from one of the KNIME nodes. We just create a new object of that type, call the method. This is from one of the existing nodes that I've built, so it's using a slightly older implementation of the calculator method. And then you just return the result, and you'll have this available in a normal table of 9 results. So we can deploy these to our chemists, and they become available in the node repository. The chemists can add them into a workflow and then combine them with the ChemAxon nodes if they wish. And you'll get the results from the calculators displayed in a normal results table, and you can export those. And these can also be used in the KNIME web portal. So for chemists that don't want to use KNIME for some reason, we can build them workflows, and then all they've got to do is load their results in there, decide which of the calculators they'd like to use, run them, and then download the results. So in conclusions, we've created a library of custom calculators that will give our chemists the same functionality as they've been using over time in their desktop calculations, and will give them the same results as they've been used to getting. The library can be quickly and easily updated, unlike where it's incorporated into a large application. And you can also use the library with KNIME. Okay, I'd like to thank you all for your attention.
In fact, I have a comment that the deployment will be even easier in 5.10, because you can use an URL as you can specify the location of the config file as a URL. So you don't have to have the file on your computer.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sal.
My question would be that wouldn't the standard chemical terms evaluator node in KNIME could be used for the custom calculations? So when you have set up in Marvin, then it was already available through chemical terms in Instant JChem. Would it be also available in KNIME?
I don't know. I don't know actually.
away?
I haven't tried that. Yeah, no.
Okay.
I think
In
that
this
would be-
way, maybe you don't need to create KNIME nodes.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, I'll try that. Thank you very much. That's a good idea.